Dark turn. Mark Carney slaps back. Carbon tax 2.0 hits struggling Canadians. Canadians are once again grappling with a familiar economic challenge, the carbon tax. Despite the federal government's decision to remove the consumer carbon price effective April 1, 2025, many believed the financial burden had been lifted. However, the introduction of the Clean Fuel Regulations (CFR) has brought the carbon tax back into focus. These regulations are projected to add approximately 17 cents per liter to gasoline and 16 cents per liter to diesel by 2030, reigniting debates over environmental policy and economic impact. This situation raises critical questions about the balance between ecological sustainability and the financial realities faced by everyday Canadians. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has been vocal in his opposition to the CFR, dubbing it Carbon Tax 2.0. He argues that these new regulations will disproportionately affect lower-income households and exacerbate the cost of living crisis. Poilievre has pledged to eliminate all forms of carbon taxation if his party returns to power, positioning himself as a defender of Canadians' wallets. His rhetoric resonates particularly with those who feel the pinch of rising prices, as he emphasizes that many families are already struggling to make ends meet. He highlights stories of constituents who are forced to choose between essential needs like groceries and fuel, making the stakes of this debate even more personal. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who succeeded Justin Trudeau in March 2025, has defended the CFR as a necessary step towards reducing Canada's carbon emissions. Carney, a former central banker and UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance, believes that the CFR will incentivize cleaner fuel alternatives without imposing a direct tax on consumers. He contends that the CFR is a crucial component of Canada's strategy to meet its climate goals and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Carney's administration argues that the long-term benefits of transitioning to a greener economy, including job creation in renewable energy sectors, will outweigh the short-term costs. The Parliamentary Budget Officer, PBO, has projected that the CFR could lead to an increase of up to 17 cents per liter in gasoline prices by 2030. While this may seem modest for many Canadians, especially those in rural and northern communities, this could represent a significant financial burden. The PBO also highlights the financial strain on lower-income households and warns of potential negative effects on GDP. These projections are critical as they underscore the potential economic risks associated with the CFR, particularly in regions where residents rely heavily on personal vehicles for transportation due to limited public transit options. The removal of the consumer carbon price, while lowering inflation in the short term, has also eliminated the Canada Climate Action Incentive Rebate, which provided financial relief to low- and middle-income households. This rebate was designed to offset the costs incurred from carbon pricing, and its absence leaves many Canadians vulnerable to the rising costs associated with the CFR. The Bank of Canada notes that the removal of the consumer carbon tax will temporarily lower inflation and result in a one-time reduction in the level of consumer prices, mostly reflecting a decline in gasoline prices. However, this decline is expected to be short-lived as the impact of the CFR unfolds. The debate over the CFR has intensified political divisions. Poilievre's criticism of Carney's policies has resonated with voters concerned about rising living costs. Conversely, Carney's administration argues that the CFR is a crucial component of Canada's strategy to meet its climate goals and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Conservative Party has adopted the slogan, "Axe the Tax," defining their party with the promise of eliminating all aspects of Canada's federal carbon pricing scheme. This slogan has become a rallying cry for many who feel that climate policies are being imposed without adequate consideration of their financial impacts. The impact of the CFR is expected to vary across Canada. Provinces with higher reliance on fossil fuels, such as Alberta and Saskatchewan, may experience more significant increases in fuel prices, exacerbating the challenges faced by residents in these regions. In contrast, provinces like British Columbia, which have already implemented their own carbon pricing mechanisms, may feel less of an impact. This disparity raises important questions about equity and fairness in how climate policies are applied across the country. Critics argue that the government's approach to spending and taxation resembles unchecked behavior, treating citizens as revenue sources rather than stakeholders. They advocate for structural reform with increased accountability, limits on discretionary taxation, and protection for the average household to ensure that policies do not disproportionately burden those already struggling. Public opinion on the CFR is divided. Supporters argue that the regulations are a necessary step towards addressing climate change and transitioning to a greener economy. They point to the scientific consensus on the urgency of addressing climate change and the potential for Canada to lead by example on the global stage. Opponents contend that the financial burden on consumers outweighs the environmental benefits, particularly for those living paycheck to paycheck. As Canada approaches the 2030 deadline for its climate goals, the effectiveness of the CFR will be closely scrutinized, with many Canadians eager to see tangible results from these policies. The government faces the challenge of balancing environmental objectives with economic realities, ensuring that policies do not unduly burden Canadian households. As the situation evolves, it is essential for policymakers to consider the diverse needs of Canadians and strive for solutions that promote both environmental health and economic prosperity. The complexities of addressing climate change while maintaining economic stability are at the forefront of this debate, highlighting the need for thoughtful and inclusive policymaking. In conclusion, Canadians are encouraged to stay informed about the implications of the clean fuel regulations and to engage in discussions about the balance between environmental sustainability and economic affordability. Public participation is crucial in shaping policies that impact the nation's future. The debate over the carbon tax's return underscores the complexities of addressing climate change while maintaining economic stability. As the federal election approaches, the issue is likely to remain a focal point in Canadian politics, compelling both sides to articulate their visions for the future clearly. The path forward will require careful consideration of both environmental goals and the financial well-being of citizens, ensuring that all voices are heard in this critical conversation.